Hi everyone, and welcome back to KTB Creates. Today I'm going to bring you 3 Christmas Dollar Tree DIYs, so stick around and let's get right into it with DIY number 1. So for this project, you're going to need a bunch of shopping bags from the Dollar Tree. You could also use different types of Christmas wrapping paper if you have that. But I just grabbed a whole bunch that I liked the scenes and the colors on them. And you're going to just cut strips of this across horizontally. So I'm choosing like the areas on the bags that have like the most color or the neatest design or font or something like that kind of strikes my eye. And you're just going to cut several strips of it in about, I would say 1.5 inch strips, because we're going to use these strips to make a Christmas tree. So you'll see as I start cutting here. So, you know, I obviously really loved the gingham print on this bag and the red and the green. So that's going to be 1 strip. Then, you know, I wanted some greenery in there as well. So that's going to be another strip. So I hope you can get the idea as you see me cutting the different sections of different bags. Like I said, you can also use different wrapping paper, which would be a good way to use up some old wrapping paper that I'm sure you have hanging around. Okay, so once you have all those pieces cut, you're going to need 1 foam board, poster board piece from the Dollar Tree. And I decided to go ahead and use some wrapping paper that I purchased at Walmart. It was $5.98 for a huge roll. Of course, it's buffalo check because that's like my favorite print ever. So I decided to go ahead and use that as a background. So all I'm doing is measuring and cutting to fit the whole foam board piece. Now you can cut this to size however you see fit. You can also just paint the foam board if that's what you choose to do, but I'm just a huge fan of this print, so it just caught my eye. And then all I'm going to do is spread over some glue, and we're just going to paste that wrapping paper right on that foam board. And then for the back, you're just going to simply fold it over as you would if you were wrapping a gift. And for this, I just use some Scotch tape. You could probably glue it too, but I don't know, I just felt like it was easier just to tape it all down. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so now here's where the fun begins. And you're going to line up all the strips of bag that you cut out in the pattern that you like the best. So I'm just kind of mixing up the different colors and the print and things like that. I'm mixing it up to what I like. And then you're obviously going to start cutting the pieces depending on the width you want yours to be. You're going to cut the pieces accordingly. So you're going to go, the bottom piece obviously is going to be the widest piece across, and then you're going to start narrowing all the pieces going up to the top of your tree. And it'll make more sense as I go, as you see it all coming together. And this is what it looks like after I have all the pieces cut. I did, for this size board, I did use 14 strips of bag cut up, just for your reference. And then I also used that cute little gingham pattern on the side of the shopping bag. It was just the gingham, so I was able to cut out a little square piece to use for the base and then make a cute little star for the top of our tree. And then all you're gonna do is take your regular old school Elmer's glue, and you're gonna just glue all of the pieces onto the foam board. And what's a tree without a little bit of a decor on it? So here I'm just taking the Dollar Tree pip berry garland, and I am going to just hot glue that in a zigzag formation across the tree. Now it's time to make the border or the frame for your foam board. So I decided to go ahead and use things that I had on hand. So I just cut down some regular paint sticks to, so I just cut off like the top portion that's curved at the top. So all I'm doing here is painting all of those with some white chalk paint. And then I'm going to apply a very thin coat of some gray acrylic paint. I'm just going to dry brush it onto that just to give it a little bit more dimension. And that's what I'm using for my border. Now you can use anything that you have laying around the house, furring strips, anything small like that that's easy to cut. I just don't really have the tools to be able to go ahead and do that. So this is what I chose to do. Now you will need 12 of these if this is the method that you choose to use. So now it's all about piecing it all together. So I like to do this, set it up before I go gluing anything down. You are going to have to trim some of the pieces, obviously, because it's not going to fit perfectly. And you do want to make sure when you're cutting these, you want the stir stick to, you want it to, there to be a little bit of an overhang on the edge of the foam board. So just make sure that you're allowing for that. So once I have everything cut to size, I decided to go ahead and use just some regular tacky glue and some hot glue as well, just to make sure it all stays in place. Just so you know, I didn't do this, but you can also go ahead and layer on a layer of Mod Podge on top of your Christmas tree and the wrapping paper before you do the whole pipberry decorations and all that. It just depends on how you choose to use this. I'm always going through stuff and reusing things, so I didn't take that step. But just so you know, if you want it to be more of a permanent decorating piece and you don't want it to get ruined, you should definitely go ahead and do that. And here I'm just showing you how easy it is to use like a miter box here and a regular handsaw just to trim your stir stick pieces down. It really doesn't take any time at all, and it's, you know, a very easy process for someone that doesn't have the saws and things like that that you can use when you have to cut real thick pieces of wood. So that's always an option. And here I'm just finishing up gluing everything together. So here is the finished look. I am absolutely in love with the way this came. You guys know the drill if you've been here before. I always love to hear what you have to say and what you think. So the game is, I need you to leave in the comment section below which one of these 3 DIYs is your favorite, because I always like to hear. It's a fun little thing just to hear everyone's opinions. And honestly, they always end up being quite different across the board. So it's always really interesting to me, and I love to hear from you. So let's get into Dollar Tree DIY number 2. So for this, we're going to need, I'm using some of those houses. I know in one of my previous videos, some people have them in a stash and some people wish that they had them. And I check my Dollar Tree all the time. So I know that that's definitely a secret to finding these prized possessions, but you also want to check online, because that's where I happened to find these. And when I did find them, I went ahead and purchased a whole box of them. So that's why I have so many. So if you do see them, you want to grab a whole bunch because you could use them for so many different things. So all I'm doing here is just taking some antique, my Waverly Antique Wax, and I am just going to stain the inside house frame and the outside corners of it. And then you saw in the previous clip that I cut a piece of craft paper that I always get at Hobby Lobby. It's 25 cents a piece, and it's just a cute little Christmas theme with snowman. So you're just going to cut that down to size. I know a lot of people pop the back of the houses out in order to, you know, cut the scrap paper accordingly, but I don't know what it is, but I always find it so hard to get that back piece out. So I just kind of cut until it's the perfect size that fits in there. So I just find that that's easier. And then I'm going to go in and I'm just going to paint the edges with some acrylic burnt umber paint, just because the measurements on the scrapbook paper aren't always perfect. So in case there's anything peeking through, it won't be that noticeable. Then you're going to take your regular Elmer's school glue and you're going to glue that scrapbook paper right onto the back of your house. I wanted to take a moment to go ahead and invite you all over to join me over on my social media. I will leave the handles below just so you have them, but I love to connect with all of you over on Instagram. So if you do make any of my DIYs or if you're inspired by something, I would love for you to tag me in that, take a picture of it, and I'd love to feature it in my stories. So make sure you go ahead and do that. And if you haven't already clicked that subscribe button, please go ahead and do so because I would love to have you as part of my KTB Creates family. So now what I'm doing is I took these little chalkboard tags that you could buy at the Dollar Tree. Now they aren't wood. They're like a really thick card paper or cardstock paper. So it is a little flimsy, but I decided to go ahead and use it anyway. So I did take the string out that was on it because I wanted to use twine because I wanted it more of a rustic look. So all I'm doing with that is I'm going to put it back in because I did want to make a slip knot so it laid nice and flat. So that's all I'm doing here is creating that slip knot. And then you're just going to tie in a knot at the top and adjust it accordingly depending on how far you want it to hang down. Now I am going to use some vinyl lettering, you'll see. So I do want to leave a space at the bottom in order to fit that. So that's why I'm leaving the gap at the bottom. Next, I'm going to just apply a little bit of decoration by including some little bells that I got at the Dollar Tree. I'm just using 2 bells, but it was part of like a whole garland set. So I just cut the bells off and I'm just hanging them with some twine. And now it's time to apply the vinyl. So I'm putting the words days until right at the bottom of the little tag. And then I'm going to put Christmas inside the house box at the bottom. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but these are chalkboard tags. So you are going to be able to write on them in chalk. And I did test it out. You can erase it fairly easy. It comes off pretty good. You just obviously don't want to dampen it too much because it is just a really thick, heavy piece of paper. So all I'm doing here is applying the vinyl lettering. So it says days until Christmas, and then on the chalkboard tag, you could write out your days and change them every day. And then you're all set to go ahead and hot glue everything. I hot glued it underneath, but I let it stick out a little bit because I wanted it to stick out from the house, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit more of a 3D type of a look. And then I just created a sweet little twine bow for the top of the house, just for a little bit more decoration. And you are all done with the DIY number 2. And I love this. I love how it came out and it's useful. You could use it all the way leading up to Christmas. And I'm just showing you here how easy it is to just jot down the days until Christmas. And here is the finished look. Let me know what you think. And on to DIY number 3. So for DIY number 3, I'm going to use this sign here that says "Let It Snow." And although it is an adorable sign just the way it is, I really loved the lettering on it, the metal lettering. So I always envisioned using it as a wreath. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to use the 14-inch wreath form that you can find at the Dollar Tree. And you're going to need 3 of these little chamois automobile cloths. And I am going to you're going to wrap them using hot glue. Now, my idea here was I wanted it to be fluffy. I wanted it to look like gathered. I didn't want it to be a perfectly like smooth finish. So that's why I used 3 of them. So all I'm going to do here is simply hot glue it all together as I go around, wrapping it around the wreath frame. Next, you're going to take that little metal sign and we're simply going to hot glue it right onto the little white chamois. Just around the edges. Now this sign is a bit flimsy, so you do have to be careful, but it looks so beautiful. Now I'm taking these little ornaments that you can find at the Dollar Tree, and we are simply going to use those as decorations around the wreath. So I'm just figuring out how I want it to arrange them. Then I'm going to hot glue them down to the wreath. Now there are little holes at the top of them because they are ornaments and they were hanging by strings. So I'm kind of tucking those little holes into the crevices on the cloth. So just an FYI, if you do want to hide those little holes so they don't look like they were ornaments, that's a little trick so that that's not noticeable. And now you're ready to hang it. So I decided to use this. I had this yarn string. I don't really even know what you would call it, but I had found this at the Dollar Tree last year and I've never used it, but it's really pretty. It's silver and it has some sparkles in it. And that's all I'm going to use to hang it. So I'm going to kind of measure the strip that I'm going to use to hang it according to where I want to put it in my house. So you can do yours accordingly. But that's what I'm kind of doing here. I'm kind of deciding how long I want it to be. And then I'm just going to tie it in a knot. And I'm also going to go ahead and add some simple bows that I made and just kind of let it drape and hang that way. And I love the way this came out. It's just a nice fresh piece. It's obviously bright white. I'm used to decorating with the buffalo check, so everything's always black and red. So this was definitely a change of pace, but I absolutely love the way it came. So let's go ahead and take one final look at how everything turned out. As I said earlier, please let me know what you think. Which one is your favorite? Don't forget to go ahead and visit me over on Instagram. I will leave that here again because I love to connect with you over there. And if you aren't a member of the KTB Creates family, I would love to have you. So go ahead and click that subscribe button and tap that bell so you don't miss any of the new videos that I post. Thank you all for joining me today. I love and appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful week. See you soon.